So looking into ice cream, I found myself in a dangerous place on Reddit.
I love Reddit.
Are you a reader or a commenter?
Oh no, 100% reader. I don't know why I feel like it's more truthful than anything else.
I know, that's the problem. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Need to Know. I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Ami Shukla, who is the head of culinary for Bigger Bolder Baking, my sidekick, the pepperoni on my pizza.
The sprinkles on your ice cream?
The sprinkles on my, I said that one before.
Yeah,
man. I did.
Maybe that's where I got the idea.
Ami. No, because I love pepperoni pizza. So that's a nice one.
Yeah,
they're all going to be nice. But I genuinely do love pepperoni pizza. So how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm grand. I want to get stuck in this week to Hot from the Oven with you because there is an artist who is very close to my heart. Benson Boone, do you know him?
Yes, I do. He has that really popular song on TikTok.
Yes.
Yep.
And you have a 16-year-old girl.
I do.
So she's familiar.
Yes.
Yeah, so you are also familiar. And I have to say, he came up, so Beautiful Things, the song that he's most famous for, which has like almost 700 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
I don't know how many on TikTok. I couldn't find that number. He started on TikTok. Mm-hmm. He's 22 years old. He won a Grammy last year. This made you think like, I'm failing at life.
Yeah,
This guy's 22 years
What are we
old.
doing with our lives,
I know,
Gemma?
right? I know. Well, it's too late now, Ami.
No. I'm gonna pick up that guitar. I don't know how to play it, but
I know, right? But he's fantastic. He definitely is a vibe. He's all like, I feel like all 70s. I think he kind of started on TikTok, 8 million fans on TikTok. Mm-hmm. He's a fantastic singer. There's no doubt about it. I absolutely adore Beautiful Things song. It came up in my like YouTube thread one day when I was like out walking. So he debuted an ice cream at the Bottle Rock Festival in Napa. Have you heard of this festival?
No, I haven't. And I only just tell me more about this ice cream.
It is a blueberry ice cream with marshmallows, lemon, and like blueberries in the ice cream. It is purpley in color, as we know, like kind of cooked blueberries to be. I haven't had it. People recreated it online. It looks amazing. He was on Jimmy Fallon with it. I looked up who made
Is
this,
the
who
song
makes
about
it.
ice cream?
So the song is Mystical Magical, and he mentions the ice cream in the song.
Oh,
so if you look up on his TikTok or whatever, like you can see it everywhere. I looked up who made it. I was like, who's making this ice cream for him, you know?
Right.
And I thought, like, is it Ben and Jerry's? Because he did something with Jimmy Fallon and he had his, his ice cream on there. So I don't know. I couldn't find out who's like making this ice cream for him, which like is kind of
does he
intriguing.
give this away at concerts or something? Is this like you can like buy a t-shirt and like some Moonbeam ice cream?
No. No, Ami, he doesn't.
This is a great idea. I want intellectual property.
But it does sound like a nice ice cream, doesn't it?
Yes, it sounds.
It does sound like a nice ice cream.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of, marshmallow in general and things, but I could see how people would really love it.
So the Bottle Rock Festival in Napa, it's every year. It is very heavy on music, but they've really done a huge push on food. So it's, I'm not a festival goer, but I have definitely entertained the idea of going to it. The celebrity chefs, Andrew Zimmerman, like they've got like amazing food there. The lineup is insane. And then they do things like this where people will like debut recipes, debut products. Andrew Zimmerman was making these like seafood rolls. There's other really famous chef making like margaritas with Kate Hudson. Like it's a scene.
So when you think about these festivals, do you ever feel stressed out? Like I don't go to any of these festivals, but I think like I would see some celebrity chef doing something fancy and I would think, oh, I really want to try it. But the line is so long. Like it gives me anxiety even before I've ever been to one of these. So I wonder, like, have you been to a festival and is it easy to get the food?
I'm not the biggest festival goer. If a food festival, yes, I'll go to a food festival.
But is it hard to get the food at the food festivals?
No, it's not. It depends on the festival.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the festival.
Yeah.
But I've been to some really awesome food festivals where you get tons of food and like really high quality and like a huge variety. No Kid Hungry does the food festival here in LA in the summertime, and I've been on the stage there and I've done the festival and some of the best restaurants from around LA, and they do really amazing tastings. Tickets are like $100.
Yeah.
So if you're ever looking for a fancy day out where you get like lovely drinks and food, that's a really good one.
Yeah. And how long do you think the line would be for the Moonbeam ice cream?
So there has been a ton of publicity around it, but it's not actually available to buy.
Well, then how are we going to try
our conversation? So you can make your own. So we put some videos in the show notes of like people making their own versions. You can also use my no-churn ice cream and add all those ingredients into that. Like some, cooked blueberries, a blueberry sauce, your marshmallows, some lemon zest in there.
That's a good idea.
I have to say, I am a fan of marshmallows. So all that combo sounds good to me.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Moving on from blueberry ice cream, I am really excited to talk about orange creamsicles. Are you a orange creamsicle fan?
Huge. We used to get these as kids.
Yeah. Well, now I've just found out that this is the new flavor of the summer. If in addition to Moonbeam ice cream, I guess. But it's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a combination of citrus and dairy. So the Popsicle brand, which is now owned by Good Humor, invented this in the 1930s. And it was like a vanilla ice cream on a stick, and then it's covered with an orange sherbet. It's just like kind of tangy and sweet and creamy, and that combination is so good. And then I was also reading that so this creamsicle flavor is popping up all over the place. Like Wendy's is bringing a creamsicle frosty, or they're selling a creamsicle frosty. This year, just for this year, Coke has released an orange cream, which if you're a fan of sodas, get it this year because I think they're phasing it out.
Olipop's does one. I drink Olipop's.
Oh, yeah.
They have an orange creamsicle.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
I like Olipop because it's,
Me too.
It's not as much, there's no sugar in it, or there's very little.
There is little sugar and there's probiotics.
Yeah, so drink an Olipop. Dunkin' Donuts is doing an orange vanilla donut and also creamsicle cookies. And there is this TikTok video of somebody, she goes so fast, I had to keep watching it. And I didn't look at the comments to see if she actually posted the recipe, but there's this creamsicle cocktail. Like, is this a thing? Like, is a creamsicle cocktail a thing, or is it her thing?
I don't know.
It looks amazing. It looks very sweet, but also the kind of thing that I might have in lieu of dessert one day.
Yeah, for sure. Like an espresso martini. Like, that's your dessert.
She has some, she kind of whips. She has some sort of whipped cream with some kind of sweet alcohol in it, and then she makes this sort of orangey base. It looks really good.
Nice.
It looks amazing. So if you are in the mood for a sweet cocktail, or maybe it's not that sweet, maybe it's nice and tangy. And the other thing I want to remind you of is a couple of years ago we did these orange sodas. We made like this orange syrup that was kind of tangy. We put, it was orange juice, but we put a little extra citric acid in there so that it got kind of tangy. And then you mix it with seltzer, and then you put a scoop of ice cream on it. And I don't know if I ever told you, but right after we developed that recipe, I made it for some kids who would come over to the house. And it was such a hit. And it's so easy. And it's really nice because you can it's very sugary. It's not like it's healthy because it's homemade, but it's a wonderful treat, and it doesn't have any of that high fructose corn syrup and all of that other stuff that you would get from like an orange soda. And that it's just this wonderful, it tastes old fashioned. It tastes really classic. It's so good. I think after we record this, Gemma, I'm going to run home and make an orange creamsicle soda.
You know what? As kids, a treat that we used to get was we had a can of Fanta and a scoop of ice cream, which is a float.
That's basically
exactly it with a scoop of ice cream, and which is orange creamsicle.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. I've always loved the creaminess with the sweet, almost slightly sour orange,
right,
and the ice.
I
love it.
Can I give a quick tip though? Yes. Here's a little fail of mine. I did have some extra orange juice in the house. We don't usually keep a lot of juice in our house. And I also happen to have some coconut milk. And I had this idea that my kids, even not knowing that orange creamsicles were the thing of the summer, said, Mom, make orange creamsicle popsicles. So I mixed coconut milk with the orange juice. Yeah. That does not taste good. Aww. Don't try to make a healthy creamsicle. Just go all out for the ice cream. Yeah. Somehow coconut milk and orange juice, just not a good combination.
Lesson learned, Ami.
Yeah. In case anybody was thinking they were going to go healthy this summer, don't do it. So, Gemma, it is now time for In the Mix. Since we're talking about ice cream, I think it's time to go even deeper into ice cream.
Lovely.
So,
one of my favorite topics.
Do you know anything about the history of ice cream in the United States?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me. No, I don't. So I'm actually interested. I love the history of stuff.
That is my segue into telling you that I recently found out that George Washington was a huge fan of ice cream. Did you know this?
No, of course I didn't.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, did you expect me to say yes?
Interestingly enough, he was such a fan of ice cream. He filled the White House with all sorts of ice cream making and serving paraphernalia. There was like ice cream makers, ice cream serving bowls. But it wasn't George Washington who came up with this. It was actually Thomas Jefferson, when he was in France, was introduced to ice cream. That's I think what people understand. And the first written record of a recipe for ice cream is written in Thomas Jefferson's handwriting. So he must have introduced this to George Washington. And I think the recipe goes like 2 bottles of cream, 6 egg yolks, some amount of sugar. And, you cook when you look at the recipe instructions, you actually cook the egg yolks and sugar and cream like a custard.
So still what we do today.
Strain it, yeah. And then the ice cream maker was kind of like this, kind of one of those hand crank ice cream makers where you put one container into another container with ice and salt, and you churn it. And so I thought this was all really fascinating because, you think like, how did they get ice back then? Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, they had a lot of money. They would get ice harvested from up in the mountains. Through the winter, they would pack the ice into these barns, and they'd pack hay all around these giant blocks of ice. And that would last through these southern summers up through mid-October. They would have ice. Yes, I know. This is like, I kind of think like, maybe we haven't come such a long way.
That's insane.
Kind of, yeah. And it would be like the ice would be there to keep wine cold, and it would be for ice cream. I think they also like mixed fruit into this ice cream base. So that was a lot of the way the ice cream was served.
Wow.
Yeah. Really interesting. Really interesting. And now ice cream is now like one of the very most popular things to eat. Definitely in America, I'm sure all around the world. In the United States, I read a statistic that there's like over 17,000 small ice cream shops all around the country.
Yeah.
Which is, really
great,
cool.
Right?
Yeah. I
mean, like we all grew up with that.
Yeah. Or like little local ice cream shop.
Yeah.
And you kind of think like, oh, maybe it's really, really simple. Like, right. You do just what, George Washington did, but can you tell us a little bit about like what goes into making ice cream if you were like if you were not a homemaker, but like if you had an ice cream shop?
Well, we visited, Kevin and I, a good few years ago now, Sweet Rose Creamery in Santa Monica. It's for those of you who are in LA, it's in the Brentwood Country Mart. They're owned by Rustic Canyon Group, which is a big restaurant group. Some of my favorite restaurants here in LA, Huckleberry in Santa Monica, Casilla, the restaurant Rustic Canyon, and some other places. And they're a small scoop shop, lovely ice cream. But the one thing that they said to me when we were there talking with them was that they make their own ice cream base. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought, well, yeah, like, of course you do.
Right.
Like you're a small artisanal ice cream shop. Doesn't everybody do that?
Right.
And they said, no, it's actually very unique to only a few ice cream shops. I'll tell you why. In California, they've got very strict regulations about ice cream bases having to be pasteurized. Mm-hmm. So for, 17,000 for loads of ice cream shops around California to make their own ice cream bases, they need to have the space, the facility, also like the money, the kind of machinery that they would need to raise the temperature of the custard, then bring it down to temperature again, all those, the fridges that they would need, all these things that it's very difficult. A lot of gelato shops, ice cream shops buy a ice cream base. Mm-hmm. A ready-made base. So now I'm sure there are different qualities of bases you can buy, but then this is what the majority of shops do because they only have a small, they have a counter. You see an ice cream shop and it's tiny. So then they buy this base and then they add in their own mix-ins and then they churn their ice cream. So there are some ice cream shops like Sweet Rose who make their own base and then there are some that are buy it. Regardless of which one you do, like we do have some amazing ice cream in California. Right. So looking into ice cream, I found myself in a dangerous place on Reddit.
I love Reddit.
Are you a reader or a commenter?
Oh no, 100% reader. I don't know why I feel like it's more truthful than anything else.
I know, that's the problem.
I feel like I'm not supposed to love Reddit, but I kind of do.
This makes sense to me. So I make, there's people ask me like, what do you make for yourself? What do you make at home? There's a few things I make. I make homemade pasta, I make chocolate chip cookies, and I make homemade ice cream as a treat for myself because in the freezer, I don't feel like it's calling me to eat it on the daily basis. And I love like freshly churned, rich ice cream. It's one of my favorite things. I did it just the other day. I made chocolate ice cream. I have different freezers in this house.
Yeah.
I have a chest freezer out in my garage. I have multiple freezers. I literally have 4 freezers. In my kitchen, in my house, I have a Sub-Zero Wolf freezer. So what I'm getting at is there's an article on Reddit was talking about the different types of freezers and cabinets that scoop shops have. They have one for kind of what they say, like called a hardening freezer, which is kind of like a holding freezer. And then they have a scoop cabinet, which is what we see when we go into the shops, which makes it scoopable.
Right.
If it didn't, the poor people who worked at the ice cream shops would have an awful time trying to scoop it.
Sure, absolutely.
So the difference is actually quite a big difference. So the hardening freezers are kept at around like negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 5. And then the scoop cabinets are around 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. So it actually is a big difference. But here's the thing. Because like I mentioned, I've got lots of different freezers. When it comes to eating my ice cream, I often store it in the garage chest freezer. I'll put it in my Sub-Zero Wolf, which seems to not be as cold and makes life so much easier to scoop that ice cream. And for those ice cream aficionados out there, we all know, and this is why I like to make my own ice cream because I like to eat it shortly after it's been churned, is ice cream, at like ice cream solid from a really cold freezer is not that good. The experience of eating ice cream that's been sitting out at room temperature for a few minutes, that's been held in like what they're calling a scoop cabinet, a not as frozen freezer, is so much better.
Yeah.
The texture is better. The flavor is better.
Yeah, and you know what? That's rock solid ice cream is dangerous. I actually chipped a tooth on I had the one of those Ben and Jerry's. There was like a New York super fudge chunk where they have those chunks of chocolate.
Yeah.
And I bit into something because I just could not wait for the ice cream to soften. So maybe it was my fault, but I chipped my tooth.
Oh, how'd you get it fixed?
Well, you'll never know which tooth it is.
No, I won't. This is why I don't put in, this is a separate note, but I don't put big chunky things into my ice cream. Because of those reasons. It's not for a pleasurable mouthfeel. Yeah. But long story short, when you'll see it on all my ice cream recipes, let your ice cream sit out at room temperature. Flavor is superior than putting it in cold freezer. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, it can dull the flavor. Actually, when you're making an ice cream base too, sometimes if you're wanting to adjust the sugar or something because you're thinking, wow, this is really sweet, a lot of the cold will mute a lot of the flavor.
That's very true.
Yeah.
When you make when you make ice creams, is that once it goes frozen, the flavor does get muted.
Yeah.
So when you're at home making your own different flavors, just factor that in.
Yeah. So, it's so interesting, like kind of talking about the whole process of making ice cream for these little shops. And it makes me think, I love supporting all of our little local ice creameries all around LA. Food and Wine actually put out this article a few years ago. I just came across it about, according to them, like the best ice cream shop, the best local ice creamery in every state, which is super fun. They did not list any of my favorite local Los Angeles ones, so I'm going to mention those really quickly. There's a place called Wanderlust Creamery, and this couple opened this ice cream shop, and they were really inspired by all of their world travels. So they have all these flavors that are inspired by flavors around the world, like Thai tea or Japanese soda, or they have this one that's like sort of a Brazilian-inspired passion fruit and cacao. And if you've never had the taste of like passion fruit, and it's not real chocolate, it's like cocoa butter. It's like passion fruit and cocoa butter. I
have had passion fruit and chocolate before.
It's really like one of the best things ever. And they make their own cones. It's really wonderful. And there's another one that's actually like an LA institution. It's called Mashti Malone's. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Mashti Malone's, this person, he was an immigrant from Iran, and he wanted to open an ice cream shop. And he didn't have a lot of money, and he bought this ice cream shop called Muggsy Malone's, but didn't have enough money to change the name, so he just changed. His first name is Mashti. Mashti Shravani was the owner, and he just changed the first name to Mashti.
Oh my God!
So, which is really
hilarious.
great.
Where is this?
Well, the original one is in Hollywood, and they just recently, a few years ago, just opened up one in Silver Lake, right in my neighborhood, and I feel like maybe there's more than that.
Yeah.
But I know about those two. And they have a lot of your regular flavors, but then they also have saffron and pistachio. They have rosewater ice cream. They do this. There's this kind of noodle called faluda, and they put that in some of the ice creams. They've got some really good sorbets. It's really unique, and it's a really wonderful place to stop, I think, with LA and all of the international foods and flavors. I love that these two different ice cream shops are really embracing Mashti Malone's a specific part of the world, but then Wanderlust, the wider world of flavors, which I think is so much about LA. But I also wanted to talk about some of the really interesting ice cream shops that I read about in this article. In Alaska, fun fact about Alaska, they consume more ice cream per person in the U.S. than anywhere else in the U.S. They, for it being so cold and freezing most of the time, I guess maybe it's just a really comforting thing to eat ice cream when the world is covered in snow. I don't know. Maybe the snow makes you want to eat ice cream. But there's this this ice cream shop opened by a couple. They have 3 kids. It's called Wild Scoops. And I saw this TikTok video where they source a lot of local ingredients. They have these really interesting flavors, really interesting combinations, lemon curd, snickerdoodles. They use Alaskan barley. But they do this, you'll love this, Gemma, because you love marshmallows. They put some it's like a marshmallow fluff or some meringue on top of the ice cream, and then they toast it. Oh. On a cone.
I would love that. I'll tell you, there's a few reasons why I love that. I love marshmallows. I love meringue. It's kind of like not cold and then cold underneath.
Yeah.
Like the 2 different textures.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I would love that.
I've always wanted to go to Alaska for all of the natural beauty, but now I think I really need to go for some ice cream.
That's a good reason to go.
Yeah.
I did look at that article, and I definitely recommend people check it out. We're going to link it in the show notes, especially, where is your local spot. I did notice a place in Sacramento that was on their list for the whole of California. Uh-huh. They said the best ice cream is in Sacramento. It's a shop called Gunter's Ice Cream. Or Gunter's, whichever way you want to say it.
I would say that's Gunther's.
Gunther's or Gunter. Gunther.
Gunther.
So the thing about it is that Kevin is from Sacramento, and we're going to be going there in a few weeks. So I'm going to actually go to this place. Voted best in California. But I did notice something interesting is that they're kind of doing an Italian ice thing, and what seems to be on their Instagram the most was a fruit freeze. So a little bit going back to the creamsicle, they do frozen blended fruit with ice cream on top.
Ooh.
So you get that fruity, icy, and then the creamy and the soft and all those things. So an ice cream shop, you can get all the scoops and all the things and ice cream sundaes, but I think I'm going to be going there for the fruit freeze.
That sounds amazing.
Doesn't that sound lovely?
Yeah, when am I going to get up to Sacramento?
On that note, I love when we get to do a taste test.
Oh, we're doing a taste test?
We're doing a taste test. Ooh. Jenny sent us some seasonal ice creams for the summertime. They've got a really lovely lineup. So you want to taste a few of those?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I love Jenny. And can we talk about Jenny just real quick?
Sure.
So Jenny's ice cream is there's shops all over the country. And she started as an art student in Columbus, Ohio. And she was really interested in these flavor combinations. So she started making these, putting these flavors together. I just love that it was like she had a different pursuit and then had this other side interest and then started making ice cream in the late 90s. And now, she has her ice creams, they obviously were very successful in Ohio, and then she's branched out, luckily, to several places in LA. So you can definitely get a lot of Jenny's out here, and I couldn't be happier.
I'm a big fan, and you're going to love what we're going to taste.
Oh, can't wait.
Let's go, Ami.
Pink bubblegum ice cream, wonderfully juicy and intensely fruity. What?
I have toasted s'more. Sorry, it's Asians in the microphone. Toasted s'more, vanilla ice cream with caramel. I have toasted s'more here.
Pink pink bubblegum ice cream. That is more delicious than any pink bubblegum I've ever had.
That's really good. There's a unique flavor to that toasted s'more.
Okay, now watermelon taffy or goose tracks? Okay, goose tracks is, all right, I'm going watermelon taffy. Watermelon taffy.
I am trying popcorn brittle. Oh, yum, popcorn brittle.
Okay.
Some popcorn ice cream with a corn toffee crunch.
Oh my God.
Ami, this is so good. Popcorn brittle.
Okay. Oh, get watermelon taffy. That's the best. Okay, come on.
You know what I have to say about Jenny's? Her packaging is always awesome, isn't it?
Ooh, popcorn brittle is way more delicious than I expected.
It's watermelon. It's watermelon. It's so good. Okay.
Oh my God.
Pick up yourself a tub of Jenny's. They ship nationwide. And you can also find them. I find them in my local Whole Foods, Harvey Gelson's. Where do you get it?
What?
No, you can't try. You can't try this. Is this the goose one?
I know we weren't. I just got the pints at my local Jenny's shop. But I do see them for sale at all of our local grocery stores. Like,
oh, do you really?
Yeah, like Gelson's. Do
you know what?
Albertsons.
So I get these every season. They send me a new box.
Yeah.
A variety of flavors. I think this is my favorite box.
Yeah.
The goose tracks are awesome. The watermelon. Oh my gosh, yum.
I have to say, I think the popcorn brittle was the surprise favorite.
Lovely.
I wasn't even going to try that, but yum.
Delicious. Okay. After our ums and ahs, let's move into the bowl baking hotline.
All right, sounds good. That was a delicious snack, and now I am fired up to answer some questions.
Just as we get towards the end, she's all fired up.
Okay, so the first question is, what is the difference between custard-based ice cream and regular no-churn ice cream?
So custard-based ice cream is traditional, and you have to make a custard with eggs, cream, sometimes milk, and then sugar. And then you cook it on a stovetop, and then you have to churn it.
Okay.
And that's traditional, what we know is traditional ice cream. My 2-ingredient no-churn ice cream is 2-ingredient base, condensed milk, and heavy whipping cream. And you whip those ingredients together, eliminating the need to be churned because you're incorporating air within the whipping. And then you can customize, you add your flavors, and then you freeze it. Those are the differences.
Right. Also eggless. For
and
people
eggless is huge.
Need it to be eggless.
No cooking.
And then how do you, in terms of the 2-ingredient ice cream, how do you prevent it from getting too icy instead of creamy?
You know, it's a funny one because so I know some people say theirs comes a little bit icy. Generally by nature, it's not an icy ice cream. And I'll tell you why, because one way to avoid it is make sure you've whipped your cream enough. Make sure that you're using heavy whipping cream with 36% fat content. Anything less will be very difficult to whip, and it's not what's recommended for my ice creams. That will get a lot of air. Then you add in your condensed milk, you whip that up. You want to get stiff peaks before you add in your flavors. This will help to avoid any iciness and ice crystals forming later. And I will tell you, there's some ingredients that go in that can make them a little bit icy, like adding in just fruit all chopped up in lumps or whatever. That will freeze icy. You know, putting in some sauces that are not cooked can end up being icy. So it really depends. But generally, like the rule of thumb is just make sure it's whipped up really well. It shouldn't be icy.
Sure. I'll throw in a couple of other thoughts. If you aren't storing your ice cream in a chest freezer, most other freezers that are connected to a fridge are frost-free. And what happens with the frost-free freezer is that it goes through these cycles where it partially defrosts and then refreezes. And that prevents the freezer from building up ice crystals all in the freezer like old-fashioned freezers used to do. So if you are planning on storing your ice cream long term, it's going to constantly partially melt and then refreeze. And so if people are dealing with icy ice cream, it might be that it has been stored too long. So really you want to consume any kind of no-churn or any kind of homemade ice cream within a couple of weeks for the best texture.
Yeah, for the best texture.
And last tip, if you are not opposed to a little alcohol, a tablespoon or 2 of vodka in your ice cream won't taste like anything, and the alcohol will keep it from freezing too hard and getting icy.
And same goes for Ami, went straight to the alcohol. You can also do vanilla.
Vanilla is, if it's alcohol-based vanilla, it's just alcohol flavored. It's just vanilla flavored alcohol. Okay, that's Gemma.
Judgy much? But that's very true. It lowers the freezing point.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So here's a great question to follow that. Can I use non-dairy cream or milk to make homemade ice cream?
Absolutely. If you're able to eat eggs, I would definitely do a custard based. Then I would definitely make a non-dairy ice cream with a custard base where you're cooking the eggs so that you get the proper fat and richness in your ice cream. If you want to make it completely vegan, there is a recipe on Bigger Bolder Baking for a no-churn 2-ingredient ice cream that uses coconut milk and coconut cream. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. It can tend to be a little bit icier just from my personal experience because, like Ami said, because of the not as high a fat content, but it's still totally doable. Lovely. One of my favorite topics, ice cream.
I could keep going.
I'm going to cut you off. It's over. You're done.
Can I have more Jennies?
No, go home now. Only messing. Thank you everybody for listening this week. Thank you so much for those who watched on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And we will see you back here again really soon for another episode. Take care. From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.